Mr. Ryan Katayi, CEO and co-founder of 2 startups, not just one. So thank you for joining us tonight. We're going to talk to Ryan, find out how he's done it. I'm the program manager and partnerships manager of Tech Hub. My name is Simba. We usually run these series just to educate people about what startups are doing locally, and just to so that people can share and get to know each other within the community as well. We run a co-working space and an incubator in Harare. So if you're ever in Harare and you need a place to work, come and check us out. So, I mean, the man that we have tonight he needs very little introduction. I'm sure he's a very busy person on Twitter. He's been written about in the news. He's done some cool stuff. And now we want to get deeper. Ryan, thank you for joining us tonight.
I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, so let's just dive right into it. Many startups have tried to disrupt the farming supply chain over the last 10 years. So what do you think makes Farmhut Africa different, and what is your why?
I'll be very honest. We got this question a lot, but then I think for us, it was really about solving a problem that we grew up facing. So you find that when we started Farmhut, we didn't intend to even start a company. All we wanted to do was just be problem solvers whilst we were in school and doing what we were doing. Then the idea of the company came up later when we were thinking about scaling and reaching more people with our solution. So it's very true. If you try and put tech in agriculture in one sentence, it's usually bad news that happens. I think we've seen a number of startups failing in the space. And also we've seen even the funding going down in the space because even Western investors don't understand the space because agriculture here and agriculture in Europe and even in the United States is so different. So why for us is what we grew up seeing, because I grew up in a farm. My co-founder Munya also grew up, actually not in a farm, but in the rural areas. So where this prior traditional knowledge of what farming actually is and who the people behind the term, agriculture and farming were. So even when we're churning out our solutions, it was guided by that. Just the fact of knowing whom we're addressing the challenge for and how the solutions are going to be solving their problems. So it's something that we really took in context with how we grew up and the people that we interacted with to bring up the solution to that. And that has seen us surviving. I think this is our 3rd year running, which is, I think, a great struggle.
Okay, very interesting. And you spoke about funding from guys in the Western world, right? So we've noticed that's one of the most difficult things. Last week I was at the AfriBlock Summit, and a lot of the attendees were talking about funding. And I mean, it's so difficult, for Zimbabwean startups. So how did you overcome that hurdle in the early stages of Farmhut?
I would say we were very overzealous and energetic. If I'm to compare myself today and 2 years ago, I admire myself, man. We had so much energy. Blood was just boiling in our veins, and we just needed to put that energy somewhere. But then I think the biggest breakthrough that we had was quickly understanding that there was no funding in this ecosystem that we currently have in Zimbabwe and even SADC, right? And so we quickly grasped that, and we turned our attention to the funding West, which is where most of the money is coming from. If you try and look at or heat map of where money is coming from. It's usually the UK or the US or other investors migrating to the US to fund startups globally. So we positioned ourselves correctly, and it was almost at the right time, just before COVID, and we were addressing a solution that was so alien to the audience that you're addressing it to. So I would really understand startups that say, they are failing to get funding, because the problems we have in Zimbabwe are not extraordinary. I'll be honest with that. We have startups that are solving issues to do with even hunger. This is not something that an investor, in the United States would understand. Like, they wouldn't understand someone's going hungry, right? So you're going and telling them that you're trying to solve this particular problem for this subset of the market segment, and this subset doesn't even own a smartphone. I mean, it's something that's so alien to them, and it's always about trying to be able to communicate that. So I really do understand when they say funding is not readily available, and even if you get a chance and opportunity to pitch up, you won't get that funding due to many factors, of course. But then that being one of them, that the problems that we face here really need good communication for them to be passed on.
So part of your unique selling point was that you are an expert in Zimbabwe and African agriculture. So you became your enterprise became more sellable to these investors.
Yeah. I mean, being fairly honest, it's all about. I think I was interacting with one actually today, because we're in the process of fundraising. So we after the whole pitching and the Q&A and the diligence that they're just doing, they really claimed, like, you just gave us a Zimbabwean 101, right? And it's something that we're supposed to do. Like, the story is not just supposed to go like like the Steve Jobs style. I mean, they don't have the problems that we do. So it's all about transporting them to Zimbabwe, working with them through the Zimbabwean context, so that they really appreciate and understand exactly where you're coming from and where you're going. So just by failure of communicating who you're representing, who's going to pay, how they're going to pay, why they cannot pay much more than what you're charging them, stuff like that, it always falls short. So I believe it's something you learn over time, but then it's really something that's really important, especially if you're addressing an investor who is not familiar with the environment that you're pitching for.
Okay, no, I hear what you're saying. I can hear from your responses that you nicely package the business in a way that it's difficult. It was difficult for someone to say no.
Yeah, we've had a pretty sad week. Some heavy notes coming down, but then I think globally as well, it's a trend that's going on. But yeah, we try and make sure that even if they say no, it's not because we failed to make our case. It's because of something else, because we failed to make our case.
Yeah, I can hear. Just going by your responses, you speak about who's going to pay, the business model, etc. So you have covered some of the issues that I see when I work with guys. Is they come up with great ideas, and there's no one who can pay for it. So they're sitting with beautiful code, but no market.
And it's actually funny that you point that out. So I think I was joking with that. We're talking about that in the afternoon with Munya. We were saying that Zimbabwe is very great developers, but then poor storytellers as well, right? So you find Zimbabwean developers really have the capacity to develop very world-class standard applications and even websites and platforms. But then it falls short always when it comes to communication, because even when I speak, I have an accent, right? When I speak, I have an accent. Yeah. So when someone from America hears me, talking, I have to talk a bit slower because I have an accent. I didn't even know I had an accent. I just thought, we're just talking. But then I realized, I have an accent. So when I'm talking, I really have to slow down so that they hear what I'm talking about. Not even the quality of my speech, but then just, trying to understand really what I'm saying, like, what way did you just say? So it's really one of those things that, from the get-go, we're just at a disadvantage because we just don't speak the way they do. We don't have the culture that they do, yet we need their funding. So that barrier is really hard to break, and yeah, that's a tough one.
Yeah, I know, that's funny because it reminds me of English commentators. When Americans hear them, they say, "What language are they speaking?"
Exactly.
Yeah. So let's fast forward to 2021, right? You then won the Hult Prize. That's 100,000. It made headlines. I think that's probably the first time I heard about Farmhut Africa. I think it was on Tech Zim. And then, so how did that come about, and what did you gain from that experience?
It was a hard moment. I'll be honest. When the announcement comes out and people read about it, they just go like, I want to be them. It's simple. It's not. It's really not. That took us months to close, and it took a lot of convincing and a lot of iterations because it's much easier for someone in Silicon Valley. I was in Silicon Valley last year, around October, and I had a flatmate who just woke up, with an idea. It was one way they do bot detailing. They have a lot of bots, so he was doing bot detailing. I mean, he raised $1 million in less than 3 weeks. Would you imagine that?
Yeah.
And I'm like, we have a startup with traction already, with partnerships, with actual people working towards the vision, and we couldn't secure funding. But then you just woke up with an idea in shorts, and you actually went and pitched and got funding of $1 million in less than 3 weeks. That was, for me, a highlight, right? That where others are just walking on a straight plane, we have to really go over a mountain. It was a long process. We really learned a lot, and one of them was, we went through a lot of design thinking. I didn't even know that existed. It's one of those things that really frustrated me when we were learning. But then after that, I started really quickly appreciating it, and we really met a lot of mentors and investors, which opened up our networks, right, to even our future endeavors that we're now doing after post-funding. The engagements that we're making, even when we're raising after that, it became a bit easier when we're those networks. But then during the process, it was very, very difficult because we had to go, I think, through around 4 months to close that, and we needed runway to go through that process. So we get an investor calls was statutory because at that time we were hitting Matabeleland, Manicaland, and Mashonaland Central. So would be having calls, titering water, coming from there or going from there, or actually whilst we're there. And it was very stressful. Just the fact of translating, you spend the whole day, in hard Shona, you're deep in the raw areas, right? In hard Shona. And you have to get on a call with an investor, you switch languages, you switch everything, you're like, trying to make sure you convince them, right? And network is so bad, and. So, I mean, surviving to closing the round was the most difficult part. And we just make sure that our business foundation was solid, customers were paying, customers were happy, and we could sustain ourselves up until we closed the round of funding. So I think I was relieved when we closed it. I was like, I'll never raise money again. This is a very stressful process. But then here we are again. But then it was really it was an experience. 2021.
Yeah, I can imagine. They say however hard you think fundraising is, it's harder than that.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, so I always tell guys, if you think it's gonna take six months, it'll probably take you 12 or more.
Very true. Very,
Yeah.
very true.
So you need to prepare for that. So yeah, so now you've got 100K, you've learned from that experience, you've got traction, you've got customers, and then you decide to go and start a new platform, Kwingy. So what motivated that? And what are the synergies between the two businesses?
So it all started when,
Sorry,
within Farmhut.
what's the proper pronunciation so we can get it right?
It's Kwingy.
Kwingy. Okay, there we go.
Yeah, Kwingy. So what prompted Kwingy really was, it was out of necessity. So many people that were coming through the Farmhut platform, and they wanted e-commerce, right? They were pushing more for e-commerce, but then Farmhut was really basically a marketplace. So we really had a problem where we tried reconciling e-commerce with what we're already doing, which was a lot, because we're connecting farmers, we were offering them other additional services. Right now, we're about to add insurance to that. We're offering disease detection, agronomy services, and a whole marketplace. So it was when people came in trying to offer, us trying to push us to offer e-commerce, it was very, very difficult for us to try and reconcile that. So that, coupled with my experience, Minya's experience, and also Brian's experience, was last year, we did a lot of trips outside the country, and what we experienced out there, and what we then got to experience when we got back in Zimbabwe, it really was a culture shock. They call it reverse culture shock, because when you're used to ordering on Amazon and you come back here, you have to go straight through town. That's very difficult to, just depend on having to walk through town and buy something, for which time many people do not really have. So we were like, instead of making Farmhut, this bulky platform that will become so difficult for people to understand, why not just create another platform? We already have experience in this field when it comes to listing platforms, marketplaces, the development talent we already have in-house. Then as well, even the logistics we do have. What we just need here is a proper infrastructure of how to launch this out and really manage, because we're in the business of logistics, really, when we look at the downline, right? So it was all a matter of saying, we have all that experience all around. One of our co-founders actually has experience, around 10 years experience in logistics, running one of the biggest logistics companies here in Zimbabwe. So you find we had everything in place. So the only thing that was left for us to do was to just convince ourselves to say, are we willing to solve this problem, right? Because there's a problem that we've waited for so long for other people to solve. And we're just like, man, let's just solve this problem. And it doesn't take away so much from us. And it doesn't take away from what we're already doing. So it's a win-win on either side. So that's when we decided to do that and launch Kwingy.
Okay, no, that's great. So now you've got Kwingy and you've got Farmhut Africa. So you're similar. You remind me of Jack Dorsey. He had Square, Twitter. I don't even remember what's out, but who knows? Jack was running many things. That's why his beard was growing. He didn't have time to shave. So how do you run two demanding startups at the same time, especially given that like Kwingy that's a very B2C type of business, and I can imagine how busy. How do you run two demanding startups at the same time?
I'll be honest with you. It's pretty much of an overstatement to say, I do a lot. Sometimes I actually yearn for more work. So I think it goes down in our team structure. So what we managed to do is to ensure that we always communicate with the team before we implement anything. So there is a buy-in way out of the gate, right? So even if I'm not there, I know work is going to go on. Even if Munya is not there, I know work is going to go on. You know, there is continuity that happens in the company or in the companies, because it doesn't matter whether we're there or we're not, right? So I think it's the structure that we put up all together in trying to set up our first business, which was Farmhut, right? We really built it for scale because with regards to Farmhut, we can scale it up quickly and we can scale it down very, very fast in a space of a day, really, right? That's how we've made sure that even we survive, bulges in markets. When there is no money, we can survive. When there's a lot of money, we can survive because of how we structured everything. So when it comes to Kwingy and Farmhut, in Kwingy, really, with very few people, we're doing a lot of responsibilities with so much automation. And you'd find if one person is not there, some other person is going to do that, some other person is going to do that without them feeling there's so much pressure coming from either side. So we really, I think, mastered the art of trying to do delegation and also the whole process stream of how we really run our various departments when it comes to our work. But then I would really concede that it's emotionally straining running two different startups, especially two startups in different domains with so much demanding issues that are around them. So my only issues as a firefighter, mostly, I'm just there to get the problems, try and think what we can do. Then I know Munya is always there to do the same. So even if I don't do it, he's going to do it until he complains like, bruh, you need to come and do this. But then I think it's that kind of relationship that we have. And it makes sure that, we go on through that without feeling that much pressure and surviving it through all.
Okay. So what advice would you give to startups and entrepreneurs that are watching you and finding it difficult to make their own mark?
I would want to just start by saying, it's the hardest thing you ever do in your life, starting a company, especially one you structure as a startup. If you have a choice, don't do it. If you really have a choice, don't do it. Find your comfortable 9 to 5 and live happily and strong. But then if you do choose to come this path, you really, really need to know that you're going to be the poorest person in the room. You're going to be the last person to be compensated in the company. You're really going to be stressed 27 hours a day. You're really going to sleep 2 hours a day. You're going to really be the saddest person in the room again, because you're going to always be thinking how to make this better, how to do it better. But then it's one of the most fulfilling journeys you ever make, because I think I remember last year because myself and Munya, we rotate customer engagement, because we always get feedback, so we rotate. Every time I get on customer calls, it's really one of those wow moments for me personally, because I'm like, are we the ones, like, is this Farmhut? Are we really doing this? Or are people just lying, just to make us happy that we're bringing such happiness to them and such solutions? And I think I'll just close by saying, don't be afraid of competition. It's always going to be there. I mean, there's always going to be someone making up something, building something. It doesn't matter who started it. What matters is how long you stay in the game, right? Most of the companies that are going to start right now are going to die either way. Just don't be part of the statistic. So that's what I think I would just say. It's always about keeping on fighting and making sure that you have a strong team that really believes in what you're doing. Skill is important when you're starting, but then I think people with loyalty to the vision matter more than people with skill when it comes to starting up.
Okay, wow. Yeah, no, I'm impressed. Even the whole structure of your business, it's pretty amazing. What you guys are doing. I'm more impressed now. So I think you should have a TED talk very soon.
I don't like speaking. I mean, I'm so shy. I'll confess that I'm so shy. But then, if I really feel it benefits someone out there, I'd really try and do that.
Founders come out of their shell, so you start being shy. You start being shy. Next thing you're pitching in front of at Y Combinator. Because
Yeah, man.
you have to sell. So I mean, I think we'll open up, guys, for some questions. Ryan, do you have any parting shots that you want to give to the audience?
I don't know if anyone has questions.
I think they're still digesting. Does anyone have questions for Ryan? You can put your hand up. If you're shy, you can type in the chat. I think people
I think there are no questions. So Simba, I think my parting shots, they're mainly aimed at you. So I, one thing that I really appreciated when I went to America was how strong the ecosystems are, the tech ecosystems. We are not traditionally aware or conscious of what we need to get there, right? We're not built in such an environment that encourages capitalism that much. And hubs like yours really play a pivotal role when it comes to building such confidence and even vision in the founders of today. So I think I would just say keep doing what you're doing, but then you could do it even more, right? You could do it even way, way, way more. And I really salute you for what you're doing. Keep that up. And most startups in Africa really are funded through accelerators, other than direct interactions with investors. So you really have a lot to do on your plate than I think you probably realize. But then I really appreciate the work you're doing, and I really hope you keep doing it. There's so few hubs here in Zimbabwe. I think right now I was counting 4 or 5 functional hubs right now. So I mean, it's something that depresses me because we won't get anywhere if we don't have this support in the ecosystem itself. So, but then I really applaud you for what you're already doing. I've seen some of your documentaries with the startups that you're really helping. I really encourage you to keep doing that and keep impacting the lives of many founders out there. And one last note, please add what do you call those people, a therapist at your hub. I don't know if you have one, but then would really use one.
Thank you. So thank you for those kind words, Ryan. You flipped it on me. I didn't expect that. No, yeah, no, the challenge is very big. And I think it's a question of, like I say, collaboration is the new competition. So it's having more of these sessions where entrepreneurs come together, you guys meet, you share ideas, you go forward. Us as the hubs, we try and play our part. We try and bring, like Farah is from a bank. He actually works in a bank, so he's in corporate. He deals with SMEs. We need to have more people like him joining these sessions, seeing what you are doing. You tell your story. We back you up. I mean, we all under one flag. So if we can work in the ecosystem of hubs, entrepreneurs, corporate, universities, then we just become stronger, and try and change the narrative. Because what breaks or my heart is you see countries like Rwanda and I don't know, Zambia, Rwanda gets more funding, but it's 1.5 million, which is Harare. And yeah, 10 times. So it shows it's possible. It's just up to us as the individuals. But that's my 2 cents. I can go on all day, but no, thank you so much, Ryan. Thank you to everyone in attendance. Maybe you've got some courage and you have a question for Ryan. If not, I'm gonna end this session. Thank you so much for attending, Ryan. Hopefully we get to meet in person very soon and we can have a coffee and sit down and chat, man.
Definitely, Simba. If you have a coffee.
Yeah, or beer, whatever you want.
Let's work on that. Let's work on that. Have a good night.
All right, same to you, man. Cheers, everyone.
Sure.
Thank you, guys.